More than 1,000 years ago, in the imperial court of Japan, during the Heian period, there lived a woman named Sei Shōnagon, lady-in-waiting to Empress Teishi, who wrote one of the most influential books in Japanese literature, the Pillow Book. In it, she recorded, among other things, something that would seem trivial today, but at the time defined who had good taste and who didn't: the color combinations of the robes worn at court. This wasn't frivolity. It was a system called kasane no irome, layered color combinations, in which each noble wore several layers of fabric, and the order, the shade, and the number of colors visible at the edges of the sleeves and collar silently communicated the refinement of the wearer. A wrong color combination could ruin a court lady's reputation faster than any verbal etiquette mistake. And the most surprising part is that when analyzing the surviving records of these dress codes, historians found a pattern that repeats itself obsessively. The most praised, most elegant combinations, the ones most associated with the court's good taste, almost never exceeded 3 predominant colors visible at the same time. 1,000 years later, that same principle still governs what we today call dressing well. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to apply it, so you never again open your closet and feel like nothing matches anything. There's a frustration that hits nearly everyone who's ever tried to dress well. You have a full closet, sometimes even an expensive one, but when it's time to put together a look, it feels like nothing talks to anything else. A pair of pants that doesn't match any top, a top that only works with one specific piece that's in the laundry, a beautiful coat you bought on impulse and never figured out what to wear it with. The result is a closet full of clothes, but a constant feeling that you have nothing to wear. One of the most repeated and most ironic phrases in the world of fashion, because technically it's a lie. You have clothes. What you don't have is a system. And the Japanese solved this problem long before any Western fashion consultancy ever imagined it, through a color discipline that, applied correctly, makes any combination of clothes look intentional, deliberate, expensive, even when the individual pieces are simple.
I finally compiled everything from this channel into a book, The Complete Japanese Woman. It covers your wardrobe, finances, beauty routine, and home, all built around authentic Japanese principles rather than rigid rules. It's not about owning less or doing more. It's about becoming the woman who already has everything under control. And that includes 3 bonus tools to help you get started today: an identity checklist, a finance spreadsheet, and a wardrobe organization worksheet. It's a digital book ready for immediate download. Download your copy via the link in the first pinned comment.
To understand this rule deeply, we need to go back even further in time and look not just at kimonos, but at Japanese visual philosophy itself. One of the central concepts of traditional Japanese aesthetics is shibui, a term describing a discreet, understated beauty, one that doesn't impress immediately, but reveals itself slowly, with time and the attention of the observer. The opposite of this in Japanese visual tradition is excessive stimulation, sometimes called urusai when applied to color, a term that originally means noisy, but which the Japanese also apply visually. A urusai color combination is a loud combination, one that shouts, that tires the eye, that leaves no room to breathe. And it's precisely to avoid this visual noise that Japanese tradition, from the Heian court to modern Tokyo tailors, has always worked within limited, deliberately restrained palettes. This brings us to the central principle of this video, the rule of 3 colors. It isn't a modern invention by some image consultant. It's the contemporary formalization of an aesthetic principle that runs through all of Japanese art, from kimono design to ceramics, from sumi-e painting to the Zen garden. In any of these art forms, you'll rarely find more than 3 dominant chromatic elements competing for attention. A traditional Zen garden usually uses only the green of moss, the gray of stone, and the brown of wood. 3 tones, And it's this limitation that creates the sense of peace and harmony we so associate with these spaces. Sumi-e painting, for its part, often uses a single color, black ink, in varying intensities, and still manages to convey emotional depth through variation in tone, not hue. This is the logic we're going to apply to your wardrobe. The rule works like this. In any look, from the most casual to the most formal, you work within a maximum limit of 3 main colors, counting the entire body from head to toe, including shoes, belts, and visible accessories. This doesn't mean you can only own 3 pieces of clothing. It means that among all the pieces you're wearing at the same time, the observer's eye shouldn't identify more than 3 distinct color blocks. And here's the most important detail, the one that separates people who truly understand the rule from those who only half heard about it. The 3 colors don't need to be, and in most cases shouldn't be, completely different colors from one another. Japanese tradition prefers working with tonal variations within the same color family, what Western designers would later call a monochromatic or analogous palette, but which the Japanese had already been practicing for centuries through careful observation of nature and the seasons. Let's build this in practice, piece by piece, and you'll understand why this system is so powerful for putting together a wardrobe where absolutely everything matches everything. The first step is choosing what we can call your base color, the one that will appear most frequently in your closet, usually in larger pieces like pants, coats, and dresses. In Japanese tradition, this base color usually comes from the palette of neutral, earthy tones observed directly in nature. The gray of wet stone, the brown of aged wood, the deep navy of indigo, called ai in Japanese, extracted from the indigo plant through a dyeing process called aizome, practiced in Japan for more than 1,300 years, and still considered one of the country's most sophisticated textile techniques. Choose one of these color families as your base, and from it, build 90% of your wardrobe within tonal variations of that same color, from the lightest gray to the darkest, from beige to deep brown, from grayish blue to a navy so dark it's almost black. The second step is choosing a second color, one the Japanese would call a subtle complement, not in the technical sense of the Western color wheel, but in the sense of a color that appears less frequently, usually in smaller pieces, like a shirt, a scarf, a pair of shoes. This second color should have a natural, harmonious relationship with the first. And here, Japanese tradition teaches us something valuable through the Heian court's own color calendar. The most historically praised combinations always respected smooth transitions between tones, never abrupt contrasts. A gray paired with a grayish blue, a brown paired with a golden beige, a black paired with a charcoal gray. The subtlety of the transition is what separates an elegant combination from one that seems to have been chosen at random. And the third element, the rarest, the most precious, is what we can call the touch of life. A small dose of more vivid, more saturated color, used with extreme restraint, usually in just one point of the entire outfit. A lipstick, a scarf, a pair of socks, a small piece of jewelry. This is exactly the principle we saw in the video about the concept of iki and the hidden lining of kimonos. Luxury isn't in what shouts, it's in the detail that shows just a little, just enough to bring life to the outfit, without ever dominating the whole composition. A woman dressed almost entirely in neutral tones, with a single touch of deep red on her lips or her shoes, communicates far more control and sophistication than someone wearing 3 or 4 vibrant colors competing with each other. Now, why does this solve the real problem we mentioned at the beginning? That full closet where nothing matches anything. Because when you build your pieces within a limited, coherent palette, mathematically, any combination between them will work. If 90% of your closet falls within the same tonal family, you can grab any pair of pants and any top, at random, with your eyes closed, and the result will be harmonious, because you eliminated the possibility of color conflict before you even got dressed. This is the real secret behind people who always look effortlessly well-dressed. They don't have more aesthetic talent than you. They simply built a color system so coherent that it's nearly impossible to get it wrong within it. There's also a seasonal dimension to the system, one the Japanese took extremely seriously, and one worth reviving. At the Heian court, color combinations changed with the season, not for decoration's sake, but because each season had its own natural palette, and dressing out of sync with that palette was considered a sign of aesthetic insensitivity, almost a moral failing, given how much importance was placed on the harmony between human beings and the natural environment around them. In autumn, dried leaf tones dominated: rust, golden brown. In winter, deep tones of dark plum, a navy so dark it was almost black, lead gray. In spring, soft, light tones, near white pink, fresh green. In summer, lighter blues, pure whites, vivid greens, but always in controlled amounts. You don't need to follow this calendar to the letter, but you can draw inspiration from it, choosing each season a small variation within your base palette, keeping the overall coherence while bringing seasonal freshness without ever breaking the three-color system. It's also worth explaining why this principle works so well from the standpoint of human perception, because here, ancient Japanese wisdom anticipated discoveries in modern visual psychology by centuries. The human brain processes color through a mechanism called perceptual grouping. When you see several different colors at once, your brain spends cognitive energy trying to organize, categorize, and make sense of that variety. And when that variety is too great, the subjective result is a feeling of disorder, even if each individual piece is beautiful. When colors fall within the same tonal family, however, the brain processes the whole as a single unit, almost instantly, effortlessly. And it's exactly that absence of perceptual effort that we automatically and unconsciously interpret as elegance. You don't need to know anything about neuroscience to feel this in practice. It's the same reason a room painted in neutral tones feels larger and calmer than a room with different colored walls competing with each other. And the same reason a photograph with a coherent color palette looks professional, while one with random colors looks amateurish, even with the same content. This brings us to a point that connects directly with everything we've already explored about Japanese style philosophy. This rule of three colors was never really about color. It's about restraint as a form of intelligence. Japanese culture has historically always understood that an abundance of options isn't a sign of aesthetic wealth. It's a sign of lacking judgment. Whoever truly masters a visual language, whether a painter, an architect, or a person getting dressed in the morning, knows that the power lies in knowing what to exclude. A closet full of different colors isn't a versatile closet. It's a fragmented one, where every piece requires an isolated decision, a mental effort repeated every single day. A wardrobe built within a three-color palette, by contrast, becomes a living system, where pieces multiply into combinations without you having to think, because the hard decision, choosing the palette, was already made once, carefully, at the start. Now, let's turn all of this into a practical exercise you can do today. Open your closet and physically sort the pieces into groups by color family. A group of cool neutrals, gray and navy, a group of warm neutrals, brown, beige, and camel, and a separate group for vivid colored pieces, which will probably be the smallest group, or at least should be. Now, notice which of these groups holds most of your favorite pieces, the ones you wear most often and feel best in. That's probably your natural base color group, the one you already build instinctively, even without realizing it. From today on, before buying any new piece, ask yourself a simple question before heading to the fitting room. Does this piece talk to my base color, or is it going to become an isolated island in my closet, matching only one other specific piece? If the answer is the second option, that piece, however beautiful on its own, is likely to cost you more frustration than satisfaction in the long run. There's one last refinement to this rule that separates those who merely follow the principle from those who truly master it: texture as a substitute for color variety. As we've seen, when you limit your palette to 3 colors, you eliminate the most obvious tool for creating visual interest, which is chromatic contrast. But that doesn't mean the result has to be monotonous. Japanese tradition has solved this problem for centuries through variation in texture and material within the same color family. A linen next to a heavy wool, a matte cotton next to a lightly shimmering silk, a ribbed knit next to a smooth fabric. This subtle variation in surface creates visual depth and interest without ever breaking the outfit's chromatic harmony. And it's exactly this detail that makes the difference between a monochromatic look that seems boring and one that seems deliberately sophisticated. If you follow this path consistently, something interesting starts happening after a few weeks. You stop thinking of what to wear as a daily problem to be solved and start experiencing it as an already solved system where any combination within your closet works by default. This is, at its core, the real luxury Japanese philosophy has always sought in every area of life, not just fashion. Reducing the number of unnecessary decisions so that mental energy stays available for what truly matters. A wardrobe built within the rule of 3 colors isn't just more beautiful, it's lighter to use, in the most literal sense of the word, because it lifts off you the invisible weight of a decision repeated every single day of your life. And perhaps that's the real teaching behind 1,000 years of Japanese textile history. From the Heian court ladies changing layers of silk according to the season, to the contemporary Tokyo tailors who still work today within extremely restrained palettes. Beauty was never dependent on the number of options available. It has always depended on the quality of the restraint chosen. You don't need more clothes. You need fewer colors, chosen more carefully, repeated more consistently, until they stop being a decision and simply become your style. If this teaching resonated with you, let us know in the comments what your base color is going to be starting today. And if you want to keep going on this journey through Eastern wisdom applied to modern life, subscribe to the channel. Because in the next video, we'll reveal an even older Japanese principle, used for centuries to decide not how clothes should match each other, but how an entire space, an entire home, should be organized to calm the mind of the person living in it,